Well, I want to welcome everybody to today's webinar. I'm Jennifer Biggs. I'm with ITBD, and we are very excited for today's topic, which is digital demand, the growth equation, and our special guest, Janet Shines. As most of you may be following along, our topic in February for ITB by Design webinar series has been MSP profitability. So needless to say, we were thrilled when Janet agreed to be our guest on this program and talk to us a little bit, share some of her experiences. And Janet, it was funny in thinking about how to introduce you, I realized it's sometimes harder when it's someone you've known for a while because I forget all the things you've done.
So fair.
I'll see what I can squeeze into this introduction. So I've known you since you were at Verizon, but no matter where you've been, I know that you have really always been about helping businesses succeed. Your time at Verizon, at Motorola, at Office Depot, and now with your own JS group. So I was, as I said, I was personally excited that you were going to come on and share some of your experiences, because I know that you really are dedicated to giving back to the channel and helping people kind of question what they're doing and figure out better ways to innovate within their space, right? So big companies, small companies, whatever it is, it's really a little bit about how you look at what you're doing and improve, step by step to really start to own that market share. So for those of you who don't know Janet, she has expertise that ranges across the board: branding, sales, channel programs, solution development, and she has worked with everybody from vendors to distribution partners to MSP and IT services partners. So across all of the technologies, all different kinds of business models. So that's why we're so excited to have her, because she really has such a breadth of knowledge to draw on. And we think we're really going to get some great advice for you as MSPs on how to kind of ramp up your business in terms of digital selling. So I'm going to turn it over to Janet and let her do her magic here. Thanks for joining us today, Janet.
Thanks for having me. I'm very excited. And it's great to hear your voice. It's always nice to know somebody for a while, and having known you for a while, it's always exciting to get to do something with them. So really appreciate you having me. So I'm going to get kicked off because we've got a heavy slate here that I want to talk about. So sorry, the slides don't want to project sometimes. So, okay. So here's the thing. And Jen already did a great job introducing me. I really don't need to say much more, but I'll just say this. At JS Group, we work every day with MSPs, with partners, with vendors, with distributors, as Jen noted. And the thing that we're seeing is the most troubling, and therefore has the most opportunity, is the area of really understanding how to grow your business by generating demand, how to get out there and generate beyond those customers that you know, into customers that can grow. And so I'm going to spend some time today talking about this. And I want to start by talking about this new reality that we're in. So often I go to events at our industry, and I hear people talking about digital transformation. And it just is, to me, it's almost like nails on a chalkboard at this point, because the time for digital transformation has passed. We are, in fact, in a time of digital normal. And what I mean by that is, if you go and you talk to a consumer, you talk to someone who's using a consumer brand, engaging at all as a consumer, they anticipate things to be available online. You should be able to make a restaurant reservation online, a doctor's appointment online, learn everything you need to about a product online, and heck, you can even do the doctor's appointment online at this point. We're in a time of digital normal. Digital is a more accepted platform than any other platform for conducting a transaction. And those very same consumers also own, operate, run, are the procurement people, et cetera, for businesses. And so what people have had in the consumerization of technology has been a great experience with digital. And so really the breaking news here is, if you haven't transformed, if you're not already digitally transformed and into a time of digital normal where the first thing you think of is how you're going to do things or how you do things digitally, that's a problem. And the first place that I see this is always the demand strategy. So we're in a time of digital normal, and yet when I sit, particularly with partners, often their demand strategy has not evolved enough to keep up with the pace of digital normal. So what exactly do I mean by this digital normal? Well, frankly, it's the shift in our world as the result of what I'm going to call kind of a perfect storm. So we had millennials and Gen Z come in and demand this technology democratization, where everything is available on the little, glowing rectangle, and every one of them, if you see pictures, are always looking down at their devices. But at the same time, boomers came along and said, hey, we're not going to be defined by that we're not the generation to use technology. So they also spent and used and demanded technology. The economy, meanwhile, was going gangbusters, and we had a ton of innovation come in, particularly in the software as a service and overall digitization. And so what happened is this perfect storm created something that looked a lot more like culture graphics when it came to marketing than it ever did with demographics in the past. And let me explain what I mean. In a world of digital normal, the old marketing rules go out the books, because in a world of digital normal, no matter where I live, I can be connected with the people who I actually feel an affinity with. So it doesn't matter where you live. In fact, Netflix will tell you that their most watched and downloaded series right now are those foreign languages. So folks are maybe living in the US, but identify with their background or culture that they went to visit or see. And so the old-fashioned kind of demographics, this is my customer persona, particularly in B2B sales, has fallen by the wayside. And this culture graphics, really looking at what people identify with in a world where gender is fluid, age is just a number, and you don't have to live in your mind where you live in your body. This term of culture graphics has become very important. And culture graphics is achieved by customizing the experience that someone has with your brand. And this is not about just the technology industry, and it's not about the technology that was used. You go to events and you hear taxi, was replaced by Uber, and Blockbuster was replaced by Netflix. That's old news. That pay as you go as a service element that everybody talks about as, oh, the digital transformation, it's kind of old news, and it wasn't part of the digital crowd. Really, the digital crowd, this digital normal world that we're in, is defined by three key elements. And so the first one is that everything is as a service. So cereal, long a staple, is now considered by 40% of millennials and 70% of Gen Zs to be too difficult to prepare and clean up. And it's also not Instagrammable, it's not chattable. And most importantly, they don't see it as convenient. So interestingly, enter a company like Daily Harvest. It's convenient because they can order online. It's as a service. You can order a certain amount per month and it'll just show up. You don't have to remember, like getting milk for cereal. And in fact, almost 70% of millennials would prefer to order all their food online. Hello, Uber Eats. It's a new generation calling and a new way of distributing food, including using AI, which Daily Harvest does, to determine what markets and what offers matter. And just in case you're thinking the boomers could save cereal, they're following the trend, eating more healthy options, and prefer places like Starbucks where they can get customization. And I'm using these examples as I kick off today because I want people to take off the cap of, we're only talking about how the tech industry works and we're going to make marketing and our brand and everything work in the tech industry. You can't do that unless you understand what's actually happening. So the first thing that's happened, and it's happened from food to technology, is everything is as a service in the digital normal. Everything is not as a service as we think of it in the tech industry, where we charge monthly and you can change how many users you have. It's actually as a service, as in we learn from you and we respond to you, and it's customized for you, and it's priced monthly and convenient. The next thing is the pricing game. In a world of digital normal, pricing matters. Pricing is a strategic lever and one I don't see the channel use often enough. So think about the cable company we were all forced into using for our home that had 119 TV channels just so we could have the 2 channels we wanted. The average digital citizen isn't having it. In fact, a recent survey of Gen Z workers, yes, they've now gotten old enough to be in the workforce, showed that 91% of them did not have a TV channel subscription at all. They've cut the cord and millions are following. So, hello, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, and All the rest of you who came up with new ways to distribute and provide content using deep machine learning, you're the winner. And why? Because they changed the pricing game. They said, here you go, here's one price per month, you pay it. It's an over-the-top platform, and oh, by the way, it's all you can eat once you're on the platform, except for premium things that you might want to watch and you can just click and buy. So this is the pricing game. So you think about it, everything as a service with convenience built in and monthly or somehow recurrent billing. The pricing game is really important. And then finally, it's really been about the influence. As these digital normal companies have acquired customers, it's not been because of their advertising. In fact, I have to tell you, I don't ever remember getting a Netflix advertisement. I was somewhere and someone showed me it years and years and years ago, and it was great, and I got it. And very much the same for things like Hulu. You sure they have ads, but 9 times out of 10, it's because an influencer explained it or showed it to you. And so when you think about this influencer model, I like to use examples. So if you think the local gym might be immune to the digital normal storm and they'll be okay, they're in the analog world, since the rumor on the street is there's a fitness craze going on, they're not. Because firms like ClassPass have figured out that digital citizens, and remember, it's not about millennials and Gen Zs, it's about digital citizens. I probably more aligned to what a marketer would think a millennial is because I play games, I'm on technology, I wear Converse, like to give back, et cetera, than, you know, some of the millennials I know that are truly millennials, who quite frankly would identify more with another generation. So firms like ClassPass have figured this out, and they figured out that digital natives want an experience. And while they'll pay $35 for a cool hot yoga class taught by a popular instructor, they won't pay $35 a month for a gym membership you can't ever seem to cancel. And so the experience, the data to pick the right classes based on customer demand and how it's distributed is a change that ClassPass brought about. They track who's posting, who's sharing, who's snapping, who's popular, and you can buy a ClassPass and go to any gym you want. And so when you think about this in the digital normal, this is yet another example of how things have changed. And then, you know, finally, what's changed is access versus assets. So the final thing about the digital normal is ownership is not so great anymore, whether it's a house or clothes or a car. You know, it's not in a digital normal as important to have an asset. So if you were thinking with the great economy that luxe brands aren't impacted by the digital storm, you'd be wrong. There's few that have found a way to go. But once iconic destinations like Gucci or Tiffany's, places people went for special occasions, are falling by the wayside as today's digital native consumer prefers a new distribution model, renting or receiving their luxury in a box. So Rent the Runway, and then there's other unique options for clothing like hand curated, you know, Birch boxes. They're changing how people buy and use clothing, and those firms use more data scientists than most government agencies. So hello, you know, new consumption model, nice to see you grow triple digits while traditional retail fails. And so what all of this does and what all these experiences do as I kick off this session today, I hope, is to force people to take a look outside our industry and say, this is, you know, this is a point in time when things are changing so rapidly that we have to look and we have to think about our customers are experiencing this in their day-to-day life. They're going to expect more. And so the bottom line on this digital normal perfect storm that you're seeing yourself in is that a brand was born. These companies figured out that what people wanted plus the data on that equals success. And that was the digital transformation. And now, you know, they're very successful. So just how does this happen, and how do you listening in here today in our industry take this lesson and turn it into something that matters for your company? So the first thing is it starts at the top. So when you think about success for people that are in the digital normal, the success comes from senior leaders who invest in their personal brand and drive a company-wide culture of engaging with the crowd via social selling. And I'm going to ask you to take 30 seconds, and I want you to think about I want you to really think about what is your personal brand online. Just take 30 seconds. If you've got a pen in front of you, I want you to write down, if I called 100 people today and asked about you, what would they say? What exactly would they say? Okay, got it written down? The people that failed delegated, quote unquote, the brand strategy to an agency or a marketing team, and their senior leaders were not engaged in social selling. They believed that social selling, social media, being online, posting, engaging with people online, that was for the marketing team, not necessary. I'm a senior leader, I don't need to do that. And they were completely wrong. Nowhere in our industry was this more apparent than with John Ledger, who started running in the streets, doing Slow Cooker Sunday, which has 5.5 million people watch it every Sunday, and whose company experienced 20 plus quarters of growth under his tutelage. So I always tell senior leaders when I talk to them and I say, how is your social media digital presence? Forget about your company. I want to talk about you. You, the CEO, the CFO, the leader of the company, the head of operations, the head of sales. How's your personal brand around what you are in the industry? And when I get the, that's not for leaders, I say, no, it's for people that want to be relevant. And if you're not doing it, you're hashtag irrelevant. So be hashtag like John. He found a way to identify with customers. The story goes that when he launched Slow Cooker Sunday, because somebody asked him what he was eating, and he said, I slow cook on Sundays because I'm busy all week. That people that listened to the first show, less than 5% were subscribers, and now 95% of the people subscribe and use T-Mobile. So think about that, and think about the growth that he got by being willing to say, hey, I'm the CEO and I'm a little different, and stand up for his brand. And so the bottom line here is you have to make a leap. And that leap is into social selling. Now, social selling refers to establishing your brand in social media, online, on digital platforms, establishing content that people want to and desire to engage with, having a profile that positions you as an expert or someone that people want to engage with, and then executing on that to build your business. So what I will tell you is you can't afford to ignore this. There's a 77% improvement in sales teams who are expert at social selling. So if you're thinking, hey, my folks aren't doing so great at prospecting, I don't know what to do. It starts at the top with you showing that everyone should be active where their customers are. And it's really important to understand that digital natives are online. They expect to find you online. They expect to find their content online. They expect to find the information they want online. And most importantly, they expect to connect with people online. They don't think they're going to go to a trade show and find the perfect provider. They don't think they're going to open an email and find the perfect provider. They don't think that they're going to get a direct mail or a prospecting call, because that's not how they work. They believe their social network is comprised of people who they have things in common with and who they engage with on a daily basis. And where do they do that engagement? They do that in their social media platform of choice. And that's why those salespeople who are using that social media platform are killing it. So your social selling profile is the most important thing to do first. You have to build demand by being human. Now, I tell you this as I walk through this because there are a lot of companies who hire either a firm or hire a person, whether they're big or small. It could be an intern, it could be a whole department. And what they do is they come up with a whole bunch of social media content about their company, and they post it, and then everybody in their company either shares it or reposts it again, and everybody's very happy because they posted 100 times about MSP, ABC. And people who shout their company's information daily on social media actually have a negative influence score. And the reason for this is pretty practical. If you were at an event and you walked up to someone and you didn't even greet them and you just started telling them everything about what you did and why they should buy for you, they would quickly find an excuse to get away from you, and you certainly wouldn't build any business. However, that's what we typically try to do online. And so the first key to social selling is your social selling profile has to be about you. And then you build demand by being human and engaging and sharing great content. And what I always tell people is you want to be different in a good way. You want to be the unicorn. Loud does not matter. Interesting matters. So you want to think about what is your platform. And I'm going to walk through this more in more detail in a minute, but you want to think a little bit about what you stand for, what you want people to know you for. For example, most people know me for not only channels, but my tireless fight to help more women get into the technology industry. And I find that most of the leads that I get come from my work talking about that, not my work talking about what JS Group does. So you'll also want to update all your social media platforms and focus on outcomes. And by the way, if your picture looks even remotely like this, it's time to get a new one. Most of the pictures I've seen online are not so good. So you want to take a quick look through. So now what I want to do with the time we have here is I'm going to work with you on designing your profile, and then we'll work more through exactly how you take action. And my example here before we start thinking about your profile is I go on LinkedIn, pretty often, and I'm going to meet with someone or I know someone and I look up their profile. And I read it and I think that's not at all who they are. They missed this experience or this expertise, or wow, is that profile boring? And they're a pretty interesting person. Social selling is all about your profile. And then after your profile, it's about your content. What happens is there's algorithms built into these social media platforms. And if you complete your profile and you have an engaging profile, you basically get elevated to come up earlier, better on people's feeds. And so the example I always use with people when they say, well, I don't know, oh my God, that's a lot of work. I always tell them that the best profile example I could ever use for those of you, I hope, that are fans of Guardians of the Galaxy is Groot. Groot says only one thing all the time about himself and to anything about anything, and it's just repetitively, I am Groot. Said in different intonations, said with different body language. It means a million different things, but he's very consistent. He's Groot. And I think what I find when I start to look at most of the people I know in the industry who are not experts at social selling is their profile is not true to themselves. It's all over the place. It's a listing of jobs that they've held without a common thread. When I go to a different platform to look at them, it is not congruent. It doesn't mesh together, and it doesn't leave me feeling as if I know what they are. And so I always tell people you want to apply the I am Groot test. Does your profile very clearly state who and what you are? You're an expert at what? You're your trusted advisor at what? Nothing else matters. All of the rest of it is just window dressing. It's all about you having a really good profile. So here's the exercise that we do with clients here at JS Group to help them build that profile. And you might want to grab a quick pen, but if not, don't worry. We're recording this and you can always listen in on it later. So first is, what are your passions? What's the thing that keeps you driving forward? By the way, it's okay to say it's money, but that probably can't be what your profile is about. So you want to ask yourself, what am I passionate about? So I'll use myself as an example. I'm passionate about women staying in technology because they drop out at 2x the rate. I am also passionate about helping channels and channel partners grow. So that's what keeps me growing forward. But lots of people could say that they were, excited about women staying in technology and helping channels grow. So you have to narrow it down and say, what are your superpowers? Where are you better than anyone else? And if you won an award, what would it be for? Now, funnily enough, I won 2019 Channel Influencer of the Year. I've won a million awards. And if I won an award, it would be for my capability to connect the dots, to connect people with people, to find a way to get forward results. And so my superpower is I'm a super connector. You can even ask Jay McBain. He does a report on super connectors, and I've been in the top 5 for the last 5 or 6 years. And that's where I'm better than other people. There may be other channel consultants, there may be other marketing firms, there may be other people that are great at keeping women in technology, but none of them are as good as connecting everything together and finding those right connections to make things grow. So I know super connector. And then, what are your values? What do you as a person stand for? What will you stand up for? And I will stand up for any woman who's trying to stay in the industry and struggling. I will stand up anytime, anywhere, and help that person, because I know that we need the help in the industry. And because we need that help in the industry, somebody has to stand up for it. And then the next question I ask is, what's your purpose? It's not a showdown, by the way. It's about your driving passion to win. So for me, my driving passion to win is really around this channel growth concept. Now, do I also have a purpose to help women succeed in technology? Of course I do. But my driving passion to win is to watch channel firms double, triple, quadruple their revenue because they get their demand right, they get their sales right, and they're able to grow. And, finally, how are you different? Because everybody could say all that, but what's your final differentiation? Because, 70% of people state they're above average, and there's no way that that's true. So you have to find something mathematically, by the way, for the geeks on the call. So what is your differentiation? This is your last step of completing your profile. And mine is, I can prove that I've grown channel partners demand. I can prove it. 48% increase in revenue when firms work with us, 77% increase in their salespeople's performance. I can prove it. So when you can prove it, those answers to those questions, that's your profile brand. So if you answer those questions and then go back to LinkedIn, as my good example here, and answer the questions again about your profile and describe yourself, which is quite frankly the only section people read is the little about you section, you will completely change what you put in there. Because right now it probably says something that has nothing to do with the answers to those questions, and that no one looking you up would really, get cemented with. So once you have those answers, and you'll want to spend some time on those after the call today, you have to take your brand on the road with social selling. The key with social selling is it's not different than selling when we used to sell in an analog world. It's just a change in tools and location. So we used to go to trade shows, we used to use phones for cold calling. There used to actually be door-to-door reps. I'm sure in some industries there still are. But the reality is social selling is simply changing how you engage other humans and get demand. And so for this, I always quote Michael Scott, who was asked on that hysterical show, The Office, would I rather be feared or loved? And he answered, oh, easy, both. I want people to be afraid of how much they love me. And this is truly the truth in social selling. I get all of my demand for my company online and through social media, not through expensive AdWords in Google or anything else. I get it all through social selling. And so do the majority of my clients. And the reason is because there you can connect with people and get people to connect with you and get an emotional connection in a way that helps you to prospect. So we talked about defining your brand. The first thing that you have to do if you want to be great at social selling is update your profile. Use that brand work we just did and update it on all applicable platforms. Go and look at everywhere you go and make sure that you update your profile. And just a quick pro tip, you want to use the right size picture on each social media site. I notice when I check people's LinkedIn, Twitter, SlideShare, Google account, etc., they have different picture requirements, and people use the same picture and it doesn't size correctly, and that either means you don't show your picture or the picture does not look very good. So you want to do that. You also want to make sure as you update your profile, sorry, that you also check your settings. So if no one can view any information unless they're connected with you, for example, on LinkedIn, you'll see just a little gray picture of you, not a picture. So if someone's searching to purchase something that you sell and they search on LinkedIn, which is something I do frequently, or YouTube, hopefully you're using that channel as well, and they'll update your profile there. What happens is they'll see a great picture of you, and that's not gonna make somebody want to connect with you. They'll go to the next person on the list that meets their search criteria. So use the right picture size on each of those social media sites, not just the right words. The second is you're going to want to take the gloves off, as in the boxing gloves. You'll want to consider tempering your opinions. Now, I've heard people say, well, I use Facebook for personal. I'm going to be wildly political there. or crazy or show drunk pictures or whatever on Facebook or Insta or somewhere. But on LinkedIn, I'll be professional. It doesn't work that way. When people Google your name or conduct a search for you, they decide where they're going to look for you. So if someone looks for you on a platform where you've decided that you're not going to temper your opinion, they will immediately be turned away. So what I tell everyone is social media is no different than when you used to go to 10 trade shows a year. You couldn't pick 2 trade shows to be a jerk at and 8 trade shows where you were going to be good. You had to be good at all 10. And so if you want to be a jerk, I'll use that term on social media, you'll need to get a more masked name that isn't associated, a user ID that is not not easy to find that you're associated with. As a pro tip on this, taking the gloves off and tempering your opinions, go back through old tags and remove yourself if it doesn't fit your brand. This is particularly true on Facebook. You'll find people, you can go back 10 plus years and they've been tagged in some really questionable stuff, but those things show up in photo searches. So you want to make sure that you go back and untag yourself and remove yourself if it doesn't fit your brand. Next, you'll want to make an investment. So nothing's free. It never is, right? It costs time, money, or both. So the first pro tip I will give you is that vendors will let you as a partner MDF and outsource programs for social selling. The most common, and I know because JS Group does a lot of these programs, is content development so that you have fresh and interesting content for you to post online. As long as you're doing that in some conjunction with a solution the vendor does, they've seen the results from social selling and they clearly will help you pay for that. And or you can take trainings. So you can think about what trainings you might want to take. We do a boot camp here at JS Group on social selling, and the vendors are always happy to pay for that. Or there's also online programs and certificates, etc., from Hootsuite and some of the others that you can take. So vendors will often let you MDF, but remember that nothing's free. So either you're going to pay money to someone to do it, or you're going to pay time for yourself to do it. So very carefully consider how you afford to do these things. And then you'll also want to have a written plan. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this one. So what's really critical as you think about social selling is you need to do the same work you would have done if you were doing a demand generation campaign any other way. So I want to break it down. So you have to think about who you're trying to influence. So let's say that you are a mid-sized MSP and you want to go after medium enterprise customers who need to harden their infrastructure, and you have specific solutions that you're going to sell. Let's include some security in there. And you're going to go out and you're going to want to get demand for them. So in a non-digital normal world, you might have purchased a mailing list, a phone list, a Heart Hanks. Remember the days of the Heart Hanks lists? A Heart Hanks list, and you would have designed a campaign. And in the old days, that marketing campaign started with defining personas for your customers. And meet Cindy. Cindy's the head of telecommunications at a Fortune 5,000 company. Meet Bob. Bob's the CIO. So I'm sure if you've ever done marketing or had a marketing campaign pitched to you, you've heard about those personas. But in the new world, it really starts first with the influencers. So, in a perfect world, I'd like you to imagine that you wake up tomorrow morning, and let's use an influencer in the tech industry. What the heck? Let's go with Mark Benoff from Salesforce. He wakes up tomorrow morning and he posts something online, a comment on your latest content about you and your company and why somebody should want to work with you. And he says, this is the best company ever. We've worked with them and we love them. They saved us money. They made us money, never using anybody but them. Now, you'd probably get some leads from that because he's a pretty big influencer. So now in the old days, you would mail to 500 customers and or you might have done an end user testimonial campaign or a case study, and you would have taken that case study and you would have published it. Hopefully that customer let you use that name, and you would mail or call or do a webinar or something that let other prospects know that this customer, thought you were the bee's knees. In the new world, the customer that thought you were the bee's knees, the influencer, is much more important than identifying a list of prospects, because the list of prospects will find you if the right influencer is promoting you. And so too often, here's what happens. I have a customer or a prospect or a friend or someone, meet them at an event, give me their business card, maybe we connect on LinkedIn, good for us, right? We're now, now I have 20,000 connections on LinkedIn instead of 19,999. And that's it. I probably don't connect with that person on LinkedIn, except maybe I saw them post something about their team winning an award and I clicked like, and felt very engaged. In a new world, you have to have specific key metrics around how you're going to engage your influencers, what impressions and what impact you're going to have. So imagine comparing and contrasting this to an old world plan. So in an old world plan, you said, I have 500 customers, I want to go after them. I'm going to do a direct mail, an email, a webinar, follow-up phone call, and try to get appointments. In a new world, you're going to say, I have 10 influencers. Some of them probably are customers. Some of them are likely something else. Maybe it's a consultant in the industry. Maybe it's someone that people look at, an analyst. And I need to get connected with those influencers. And I need to make sure that when those influencers post something, I engage back with them. My whole goal is to get that influencer to recognize my name and my expertise. That influencer, because they are connected to broader and broader circles, by engaging with me, boosts my profile, boosts my quote unquote, if you're a LinkedIn fan, SSI, my social selling influencer score. Because my score goes up, the algorithms that are inherent in social media systems push my content to the top. I get more and more impressions. The more impressions I get with good content, remember we said as part of our basic plan we had good content, the more impact I have. The more impact I have, the more unsolicited demand I get. But it doesn't stop there. I also have to solicit demand. So remember those cards that I got from customers and prospects that I saw at shows and I connected with them on LinkedIn? Well, guess what? That means I now have to have a cadence for making sure those customers have seen my content and that they're also following that same influencer. So this becomes a very specific written plan, and it doesn't look like the written plans of the past with 500 customers, they're going to get a direct mail, it's going to be a use case, we're going to do a webinar, we're going to follow up, we're going to get an appointment. Now it looks like 10 influencers in a circle, 500 prospects in a circle, 100 pieces of content in a circle, and 100 engagements with those influencers and customers in a circle. And in the middle of it is how do you get those customers to actually become your customer? And how that works is truly through your content. So through your content being consistently engaging and consistently on point with what your persona is, which we talked about earlier, those customers, by seeing you regularly, when you do post about a new solution, they'll say, oh, you know what, let's connect. You also, though, have to keep in touch with them. And it can't always be to sell them something. You need to DM them as a salesperson, direct message them on their platform of choice once a month and send them something of value, some content that's of value, not to sell to them, but thought this might interest you. And most importantly, you have to comment on their content. The easiest way to get a prospect to want to speak to you about your solution in a world of social selling is not about you posting your content, it's about you commenting on theirs. And so you'll need to write a written plan of what are you doing, how are you doing it, how often are you doing it, what are your outcomes to be successful. And then finally, you'll want to socialize your plan. Now, this is important for two reasons. One, it's important to ensure your colleagues and connections understand your mission. So when you connect with people and you're going to connect with them on LinkedIn, you're going to want to let them know, hey, don't worry, I'll send you stuff from time to time about, what's going on in the industry, etc. Let me know if anytime you don't want to get it, but, going to do that. We do that regularly. and to your colleagues that you're upping your social selling game, that you're going after customers online, because if not, they're going to wonder, why are you so much more engaged and so much more active? And then finally, you'll have to work the content. You'll need to plan your content very carefully to achieve your goals. You cannot wing it on content. You cannot wake up tomorrow morning and say, I'm going to write something, because you'll do it the first day. I'm going to write something today interesting, or share something interesting today about our industry, or a trend, or something I'm passionate about. And on day 2, you'll probably do it again. And then you won't do it until day 7 or 8. And then you won't do it again for another month. And all of a sudden you're not getting connections. Well, this is no different than saying in the old world that you came up with 500 direct mail pieces, but you only mailed 3 of them. And the other 497, you just kind of lazed out, and you just didn't have time to put a postcard to, stamp on it. And so the 497 just sat in the cabinet. So you have to, every single day, Monday through Friday, you have to post content on LinkedIn, a couple times a week, and on Twitter every single day, on YouTube, as you can create videos. And those are, by the way, the 3 big business platforms. But you'll want to plan your content. This, by the way, is a common thing that people outsource, and we see it all the time. But you cannot wing it. You'll want to have a content plan. There are many tools that you can use to preload your content. You won't have to worry about it again for another month. So once you've got this plan together, you're ready to build your audiences and networks. Now, here's a frightening thought in our industry. 74% of managers in our industry have fewer than 500 connections. Now, if you're feeling good right now, because you're like, I have more than 500 connections, guess what doesn't count as a connection? Anybody that works in your company is related to you, or would never buy anything from you. It's just your friend in the industry, and you're connected because you just liked each other on LinkedIn or Twitter. So when you take out all those people, 74% of the managers in our industry have fewer than 500 connections, and likely most people listening to this, unless they're already engaged in social selling. And that's not good, because your audiences and your networks matter. You can have the best persona, the best brand profile, the best content, the best plan to go out there and social sell, but you actually have to connect with people. And so among industry leaders, 48% of the folks, and industry leaders are director and above in the industry, can name 2 social media influencers in their field. And 37% of those people are connected to fewer than 2 of these social media influencers. And when you go to less than 5, it's almost 100%. So in other words, people don't know who the influencers are, and they're not connected to them. And this is something that's pretty simple. If you simply spend a half an hour a day for about a week and read some of the top industry publications, look at the agendas for the next 5 events that you're going to in the industry, and just look at the news. You can make yourself a list in a week of who the top influencers are in your industry, whatever that industry is, right? Whatever you're doing, whatever you're trying to do. In the channel, I know Rob Wright from Dado and I, we typically battle it out for a 1-2 position, but you can name the people. You know who they are because you read your news every single day. So you could take a pen and paper right now and probably list out 10 people and then go and connect with those people. But what I tell everyone is, if you want to influence your industry, it can't be your buddy, your friend, or the channel chief that you like. It has to be who your customers see as an influencer. So what publications do your customers read? What sites do they visit? What news do they follow? Who are their influencers? You've got to get out there and connect with those people. Because the number 1 social selling rule is, it's not about who you know, it's who knows you. And so if you don't get out there, connect with that person, get that person to accept your connection, and then establish a relationship with that influencer, you're going to have a hard time making enough sales doing social selling. And so one of the things that's really interesting, whenever I say that, it's who knows you, it really comes down to a change in how we think about selling. So instead of us having a prospect list, our prospects have a list of us and who they want to call. And what's so interesting in this world of always connected is that despite the fact that most people realize they need to expand their connections in order to get more demand and sell more, fewer than 20% of managers and above have a written connections plan, have written down who it is they need to connect with at their top prospect accounts and where and how they're going to connect with them. And yet, super connector MSPs who actually do have a plan of who they're going to connect with have twice the demand results. So do the math. By simply making a plan of the customers and who you need to connect with within those customers, you can actually double your demand. Now, somebody asked me yesterday, well, how do you send notes to people? So here's a little helpful tip, particularly good for LinkedIn. Really long notes asking someone to connect with you on LinkedIn are pretty useless. If you've ever met the person or know, of the person, or they should at least a little know of you, a simple note that just says, I notice we're not connected here, let's fix that, is the most effective method for connecting with people, particularly the further up the chain they are. So if you want to connect with the CIO at one of the customers that you're going after, or a customer you have, and you're both in the same community, you can simply send that note. I'm sure you've been at an event together, so if you get the 1 in 100 person who says, who are you, I don't know you, you simply can say, we were both at this event together. It's a pretty simple thing if you're keeping track of your customers, and this is how you get the right connections. And the right connections matter, not the number of connections. And again, this is not something you can sit back and watch. This is a participation sport. You have to every day be looking to make more connections. You have to be following your connections to see what's changing, who's changed jobs, who's changed roles, how are things working. If you're not using LinkedIn Sales Navigator as an example, that's where your problem is going to start. So you need to use a good tool, and you need to use it every day, because you want to grow your demand without it, kind of blowing up in your face. So here's a couple things to make sure that as you go through all this investment and you work to be a social selling expert, that it doesn't. So the first thing is cadence really matters. You can only ask for the business about every 5th post. So if today you're going to post something about your MSP services around, let's use security as our example, and that you want to come in and do a quick security assessment and talk to them about how that works, contact me, DM me for more information. You cannot do that again until 5 more posts have gone through. So in the other posts should be about the industry, helpful tips, your observations, maybe your participation at an event, something that your contacts would find of interest. And then you can have another ask. That means that on average, since you should be posting 2 to 3 times per week on a LinkedIn platform, you can only ask for the business maybe once or twice a month. So you have to be very specific in what are you going to be asking, what is that one demand campaign per month, and then what is the rest of the content that you're going to layer in. If you do this right, your demand and your revenues will really skyrocket. And that's just, it's just the reality. So, but doing it wrong will mean that, you just slog along and collect connections, but not any business. It really comes down in social selling about being trusted and engaged. People want you to stay true to your brand. When you do this consistently, they'll trust you. I've said it before, I'll say it again. All of my business I get from people sending me a DM on social media, or they, by now have my email, and so they use that. But people think of me and are reminded that I'm out there because of my activity there, and it's how I sell. So you should want to sell there too. And go ahead, be a rock star. Consistent posting and engagement, and boosting specific demand-centered posts only once every 5 or so posts will get you noticed. You'll want to post, as I said, unfortunately, if you want to use Twitter, it's at least once a day, 3 to 4 times a day is a better cadence, and on LinkedIn 2 to 3 times per week. And you have to plan. So to wrap this whole conversation up, what you need to do: 1, update your profile, and do that regularly. So if something changes, you do it. Next, make a goal for your connections. Who are you going after? Why do you need those connections? Next, plan your content. What's your content going to be for the entire month? Then engage with influencers who are adjacent to your brand. And engaging doesn't mean clicking the like button. You actually have to comment, tag them in posts that you make, and then persist. Be consistent for 6 months at minimum. If you do that, you truly will win. So that's what I was going to talk about today. I'm going to go back to Jen and see. I don't know if we're taking questions or if we got any chat questions or if there's any comments you have to wrap us up, but that concludes my planned presentation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Janet. I was actually taking notes on this. This is something we're working with our own sales team to do, which is kind of grow that social selling. And it's sometimes a little of an uncomfortable jacket for them. So this has been awesome. Although I'm a little depressed about the 500 connections rules.
Sorry, yeah.
Back to the drawing board. So I will say, if we have any questions, if you guys want to chat us the questions, we'll keep an eye on that. And Janet, I know you have, for those people who don't know, do you want to tell them a little bit about what JS Group does? Just in case, I don't know how they can't know you, but if they don't, maybe just tell them a little bit about what you guys do.
Absolutely. So we obviously, and look, it's right there in front of us. We are really focused on channel evolution, and the 3 practice areas that we focus on are marketing, sales, and then one that matters to the vendors, which is programs. So the vendor focused one. So if you're listening and you have a vendor whose program you think isn't good, give them a shout, let them know. We actually redesign channel programs to work in a world that's digital normal. Many of the vendors' channel programs are very antiquated. Their benefits are kind of old school and they're not helping the partners grow. And so we go in and we help them to change their requirements and change their benefits to fit the new world. The other 2 are much more focused towards the partners. We have something we call MAP program. It's a market action planning program. This is around sales and marketing enablement. We go in and redefine how you're going to go out and hit your revenue targets and your goals. How are we going to look differently at sales and look differently at marketing, particularly now that we're in this mode of digital normal. And then we actually do social media and marketing enablement as our kind of final practice area. And we are actually one of the firms that people outsource their social selling activities to. Most primarily is content. So we have a team here that writes content for MSPs, for some of the larger vendors, and for leaders in the industry. And in fact, our social media team here at JS Group is now 2 for 2. In channel influencers of the year, in folks that they have designed the persona for, worked with them on their content connection plans, me being one of them, and the other one, John Delosier, who just won yesterday. So our congrats to John, working with them on their social media brand and presence. So it is a math game, and that's what I'll kind of wrap up what JS Group does. We do the math better than anyone else, whether it's sales, marketing enablement, or vendor program enablement. We understand how to hit the goals. And so it is a goal-oriented game. If you're a gamer, you should love social selling, by the way, because it's all a game. It's how good is your profile, how good are your connections, how rich is your content. You can influence the score so that you come up at the top of every platform and every search.
Wow,
And
we
that's what we
certainly
do for a living.
appreciate the tips today, because I agree with you. It can be overwhelming if you don't. I love your being able to walk people through the steps, because if you look at it, you think, I know I need to get X done. It can be very overwhelming. So I will throw out there, those of you who are online, as Janet mentioned earlier, we do record these, so we will share them to everyone that registered, but they're also on our website if you give us a couple days. And before we go, my little advertisement on this is to talk a little bit about our upcoming education conference. So if you like exactly what Janet did today, which is say, here are literally the step-by-steps, here are examples, here's a template, here's everything you need to take this and make it your own. That's really the goal we have with our Build It conference, which will be in May 17th through 19th this year. It's our second one. We were Very excited to make Channel ED's top 50 industry events you need to attend with our very first event last year. So if we did that the first year, you can only imagine what second year is going to be like. But it's all dedicated to this kind of content. We have vendors that come, they do not talk about products. They talk entirely about elements of their business and expertise they've built, much like Janet did today, that you can take back to your business. We send you home with an entire hard copy book of all the templates, the scorecards, the PowerPoints, the checklists, but also soft versions. You can fill them out, make your own. And so in honor of Janet, we're still running our registration special in February. Early bird ended in December, but you can save $400 if you use Janet's special code, which is Janet Rocks 349, which is Janet ROX 349. To get to our registration site, just go to our website, itbd.net, and you'll see the Build It 2020 link right there. It's super easy. If you missed that, we'll include it in our email to everybody so you can get it, and we'd love to see you there. I think it's really such a great opportunity to hear exactly this kind of content, and we all can use help somewhere. So it's best to listen to the experts about it. So I don't see any questions, so I am going to say thank you to all of our guests, and to everyone who attended. Janet, we appreciate you taking the time and sharing that all with us. And hopefully we'll have you back as a guest soon.
Love it. Thanks so much, and I hope everybody has a great day.
Okay, thanks, Janet.
Thank you.